let's retouch this photo of my dog Lucy together so that you can learn some basic Photoshop techniques that will help you to level up your photos as well. The first thing you're going to do once you drag your photo into Photoshop is expand the size of it. You want to zoom in so that you can more easily see the things you're going to be retouching. Now, I personally start with the basic local retouching, meaning any stray hairs or any dirt on their fur. I clean that up first. So I'm going to grab my spot heal tool, and this just removes things. I'm going to do it in small strokes so you can kind of see she has some wispy hair up here that I'm going to remove, and I'm just going over that very easily with my spot heal tool. And if it kind of looks a little blurry there, I'm going to grab my clone tool. I'm going to change that to 28% opacity. 100% opacity is far too much for this. I'm going to hold my option key down, and I'm just going to blend this in just a little bit. I'm going to grab different sections of the photo. So every time I hold the option key down, that is what it selects and then paints over. So you're doing smaller percentages on this and then building upon it. I'm going to grab my spot heal tool again, and maybe I want to remove some of those little pieces of fur on her eyebrows here, so I'll just remove that. There's a little bit of fur here. I'm not worried about it, but I am showing you how to do this, so we're going to be a little more intense about it. You can see there's a speck of dirt here that I'm just going to remove, and I'm just going to go through and tweak any little bits that I need to make sure are calmed down just a little bit so the focus stays on my dog. Now, I also want to make sure that I am making her eyes pop. So before I do anything else, I'm going to grab my lasso tool, and I am just going to lasso over her eye. Now, depending on what type of eye your dog has, what color it is, this will work a little bit differently. You may just want to highlight that white section. And for Lucy, I typically just highlight the white section. But if you have a dog with a colored eye, you can actually go ahead and highlight the entire thing. We do not want to mess with dark colored eyes. So anything that's black or dark brown, pretty much we're going to leave that alone. Lighter browns, blues, other colors, now we can adjust that. We're going to go down to our adjustment layer, and we're going to click on brightness and contrast, and we're just going to pull up the brightness. So you can see how it now all of a sudden makes that white bit pop and her eyes stand out a little bit more. But because we did this, we also took away a little bit of the definition in her eye. So we're just going to add a little bit of contrast back, and you can go back and forth and adjust this. As you are doing their eyes to make them pop, you do want to make sure that you are zooming in and out of the image to make sure that it looks good, because sometimes it looks really good close up, and when you zoom back out, it is way too intense. If that is the case, then you're just going to click on this layer, click on your opacity, and you're going to be able to drag that up and down without having to then adjust all of the adjustments. So from there, you're going to go and you're going to move to different areas of your dog. You're going to grab that spot heal tool once more, and you're just going to clean up anything that shouldn't be there. If their skin kind of pops through their fur, you can go ahead and fix that. Very, very easy. Now we're going to look at the remainder of the image, so the background elements. Is there anything here I need to clean up? I'm good with the moss there, but you might find like a crack in the stone that you want to fix. There might be something going on in the river you need to fix a little bit. So you're literally just looking to see what is going to make the most sense for this image. And when you're happy with that, then you are just going to pull back on that image so you can see it in its entirety. Once again, we're just going to check our eye to make sure it makes sense the way that we want it. It actually looks really good, so I'm going to leave that where it is. So my next step is going to be to deal with some of my contrast here. So as an overall adjustment, I'm going to go down and grab a new adjustment layer, brightness and contrast, and I'm just going to bump up the contrast. And because now it darkens some things down, I'm going to want to play with my brightness just a little bit. Now this is starting to look really good. Maybe you feel like it's a little too contrasty, so you're going to bump that back down. If your dog gets too contrasty, do this for your dog. Then you can grab your lasso tool and you can go around the environment and you can create another adjustment layer, again with brightness and contrast, and you're going to be able to either darken that down to make your dog pop or make it lighter to make your dog pop. You can adjust it however you need. You're then just going to grab your soft round brush, 100% opacity, and you're going to paint it on to wherever those harsh lines are so that it makes sense. So if this is too much for you, you might want to back off of that contrast. If it is not enough, you might want to add it back in. So we're starting to develop these colors here. We want to make sure that we are painting this on everywhere that is proper for that to be. Maybe we don't want that rock as bright as it was, so we're going to take that away from the rock. So you can do whatever you need to make that adjustment a little more logical for the content you're creating. Now you can kind of see Lucy has a little bit of a yellow cast here from the concrete. So I'm actually going to grab my lasso tool and I'm just going to highlight this one little area because I don't need to do it everywhere else. And I can use my soft round brush, white 100% opacity to clean this up a little bit. I'm going to go into my adjustment layers, and this time we're going down to selective color. In selective color, you are going to move over to, you would think it was yellow, but it's actually the neutrals. So it depends on your dog's color, and this might take a little trial and error. For my dog, I know it's going to be the neutrals, but it could also potentially be white. And so I'm going to click on neutral, and you can see there's cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. From here, we're going to change these adjustment sliders. So I know I want to remove some of that yellow right there, so watch it on her neck. I'm going to slide it away, and if I go really intense, it turns it blue. If I go really far to the other side, it turns it very yellow. So I want it just under that right in the center. So I'm just taking away some of the yellow until it gets too blue. And so now you can kind of see it's adding a little bit of blue in there, and all I have to do is come in on a soft round brush, 100% opacity. And I am just going to paint that right in where I want it. And I can do it in other places as well. I'm not tapping it right here, so it's not doing anything. But I could go on different parts of her, and I can adjust that. If it's too much blue, I can also pull down the blue, and it adds a little bit of magenta. So you can kind of adjust these until it feels correct to you. And if you have a yellow cast up here and a little bit of yellow down here, you can again use your lasso tool, circle that area, pull in another selective color adjustment. So every area can be different as you are creating this. So then you want to take a look, where else can you adjust? Right now we've got a very brown river, and you might like that. If you want those neutrally colors, you can leave that there, or you can adjust that. And you can adjust that in several different ways. You can go in with your selective color, and you can pick which color you're going to try it on. So let's try it on neutrals and see what happens. If I try it on neutrals, all of a sudden, it's starting to get a little more blue. And I can remove some of that yellow. I can remove some of that magenta. And just to see how it looks in full, I'm going to grab my soft round brush, 100% opacity, and I'm just going to paint it on. Now, some of this is looking a little too blue, but some of it's looking okay. And so I'm just going to kind of paint over everything, and I'm going to show you how you can remove that in just a second. So you can do the removal one of two ways. Now that you've painted that coloring on, you can either lower your opacity on the brush, click your X button that removes the white and takes it to black. So white adds color in and black removes color. And then on the lower opacity, you're just going to keep swiping over areas that are too blue. So this back area got too blue. So if I start to take some of it away, you can see now it's starting to blend in a little bit more. And that makes a lot of sense. If you are looking at this giant tree branch here, that's going to be a problem because I've got some blue on it. We don't like that. So I might actually take my opacity a little bit higher and just paint over that. Now, if you have a steady hand, you can come in and do that. You might actually really want to zoom in as you're doing it to make sure you get the appropriate lines and you're not getting off the branch and onto the water or vice versa. But you can also use your object select tool and you can highlight that. So you're actually going to have to go down to the correct level because right now I'm on a selected color adjustment. Yeah, that's why. You're going to go down to your background layer, and then you are going to highlight just that, and fingers crossed it's going to actually pick up, and it did really, really well. It picked up the stick appropriately. So then I am just going to be able to brush over that without having to worry about it getting in the water. So I'm removing the blue from there, but now maybe I don't like how flat that kind of looks. So I can then come back in with my lasso tool, and it doesn't really matter if you get the entire thing because you can paint it on with the brush after. You're going to go into your brightness and contrast panel, and you're going to pull up your contrast, and you're going to pull down your brightness until you are happy with how it is. So then you can, with your white brush, 100% opacity, you can paint that on to wherever it makes sense until it looks nice and natural. So you can kind of see that works pretty well. Maybe that's too dark right by her tongue there, so I'm going to reduce the opacity and paint that off just a little bit, and I'll let that one go until I am happy with the results. So you can already see there's a dramatic difference between what it was and what it is now. So let me just, so you can see that, I'm going to put all of these adjustment layers in a folder, and then I'm just going to turn it on and off. So look at the difference between what we had and what we turned it into. Now, as you are looking at this, if you turn it on and off and something seems a little too intense, you can go and adjust that layer. So if her eye is too intense or if the water is too intense, you can back those things off. If you have it in a folder like I do, you can put a layer mask. So that's this button right here. And a layer mask allows you to adjust things without destroying what you've already created. So instead of being on the individual layers here, we're on an adjustment layer on that folder. And then I'm going to reduce the opacity, and I'm just going to paint it off in certain sections if I need to adjust something without it destroying this. So if I then go in and decide, okay, I want it the way that it was, I can flip my brush over to white and paint it back on, or I can just grab that layer mask and put it right in the trash can. It's going to say delete, and it'll go back to the way that it was. So those are very easy, basic ways that you can be adjusting photos that you are taking while your dog is out at the park, while you're walking, while you're doing things, or if you have some really cool scenic places, very easy way for you to be leveling this up as well. Let me know if you like this series. We will continue to help you navigate the world of creating your dog photos and helping to level them up for yourself, for your friends and family, and for your social media. And we'll see you in the daily videos helping you navigate the world of being the best dog parent possible. We'll see you then.